Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting of February 28th, 2023. And we will now call to order. And can I please have the calling of the roll?
Mayor Sidney.
Present.
Reeve Eamon.
Present.
Councillor Sobalski.
Present.
Councillor Dick. Councillor Legree.
Present.
Councillor McDonald.
Present.
And Councillor McWhirter.
Present.
Mayor Sidney, we have quorum.
Thank you very much. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people that have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Can I please have everybody stand for O Canada? Any councillor have a declaration of interest? Councillor McWhirter?
When we go into closed session, I have a pecuniary interest.
Okay. Noted. Thank you. We are going to go down to K1. I think it is. Yep. Okay. The Renfrew Town Council, well, that's Rise. Where's the other part?
Just K, main K.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, wrong button. The Renfrew Town Council convened in closed session with CAO Tremblay, Clerk Charbonneau remaining in the room pursuant to the following sections of the Municipal Act 2001, Section 239, 2.B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, more specifically how it relates to HR matters arising from the 2023 budget. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Legree, a seconder. Councillor Sobalski, all in favor? Thank you, Council. We are now in closed session. Just take a minute to do our thing. All right, council and staff, we are live and ready to rise and report from our closed session. That Renfrew Town Council rise and report at 7:01 was when we rose. With the mayor reporting that the council received a presentation from CAO on HR matters related to the 2023 budget. And I also want to highlight that because Councilor McWhorter did declare a pecuniary interest, he stayed for part of the meeting, but he did leave the meeting at 6:31 and just came back now. So thank you very much. Are there any announcements or community events that any councillor wants to mention that they know of? I don't have any. Hearing none. On to C2, tabling of the draft 2023 budget. Yeah. The motion is that Renfrew Town Council table the 2023 draft budget and refer to standing committees for detailed review. Mover, please. Councillor Sabalski, seconded by Councillor McWhorter. All in favor? Oh,
Do it
after. Okay. I'll now turn it over to the Treasury Department for their wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. We'll begin with the draft 2023 draft budget presentation with the agenda, which lays out the scheduling of our PowerPoint presentation tonight. So you're going to see the budget schedule along with how the tax levy and collection is calculated, budget pressures and external funding, strategic outcomes, the overview of tax-supported revenues and expenditures, the payroll summary, capital summary, reserve summary, and debt summary. So each department is going to be reviewed at the standing committees, and I will go through each of those tonight, which is the Environment, Infrastructure and Public Works Committee, which goes into detail about the Public Works Department and the Water and Wastewater budget. Following that is the Economic Development, Planning and Tourism Committee, which goes into detail about the Planning and Development Department. The Recreation, Fire and Protective Services Committee reviews fire and protective services, parks and rec, and policing. And Strategic Priorities, Corporate and Community Service Committee, which covers Corporate Services Department, Community Services, and the Renfrew Public Library. For each area, you're going to see a summary of revenues, the review of any changes to the fees and charges, and an overview of expenditure and staffing, and we will outline the capital and projects for a fulsome review, again, to occur at the standing committees. This slide shows you where we are at the budget schedule. So we are tabling the draft budget tonight, but you will see in the next coming weeks, each of them will go to the standing committees, and eventually we will have a formal public meeting in April to pass or approve the budget and then pass the tax rates in May. Okay, so this is just a bit of an overview of the Municipal Act and the budget requirements in the Municipal Act. As per the Municipal Act, a municipality is required to pass a budget on an annual basis. And to summarize the next couple of slides, the municipality must ensure that the amount of money budgeted for expenditures is offset by the same amount of revenues. An example of that is that how capital projects are funded, i.e. from reserves, taxation, grants, DCs, etc. We can go to the tax levy slide. So the tax levy explained is shown here, that a levy is equal to all expenses less any grants, user fees, and transfers from reserves. So the levy is the amount to be raised through taxes after all other revenue has been collected. The slide shows your tax dollar. So basically, for every $100 that's collected by the town, only $66 is kept by the town. $10 would go to the school boards and $24 to the county. Some budget pressures would include the wages and benefits. The benefits had a $30,870 increase from 2022 to 2023, which equates to a 7% increase. Wages on average are a 2% increase across the board for fire, QP, and non-union. Inflation, there's a CPI index as of November 2022 was 6.9%. In December of 2022, it was 6.3%, and in January of 2023, it was 5.9%. The interest rate's most recent increase occurred on January 25th, 2023, which has prime rate at 6.7%. I believe in December it was 6.45%. The asphalt index year-over-year increase based on 2021 to 2022. For the months of August, it was 55%, September was 48%, and October it was 37.8%. These are the months that paving typically takes place. Fuel prices rose from January to June of 2022. Regular gasoline rose 49%. The price of diesel fuel rose slightly more at 55%, and these rates have stabilized. However, we have budgeted for a 10% increase compared to the 2022 actuals. Insurance renewals will occur mid-year, and we've estimated an increase of 10% on that as well. External funding comes from Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, which is OSIF. We will refer to it as OSIF throughout this slideshow. The 2023 allocation is $1.2 million, which is a decrease of $228,000 from 2022. This is used to fund capital works. OMPF funding, which is the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, the 2023 allocation is $2.4 million, which is an increase of $53,000 from 2022. This funds our operating budget. CCBF, which is the Canada Community Building Fund, this was formerly called Federal Gas Tax. The 2023 allocation is $272,000, which is an increase of $11,000 from 2022. This is used to fund capital works. So this budget accomplishes the following strategic outcomes. To highlight a few are the maintained levels of service, preparation for growth and highway expansion, continued support for strategic partners and community groups, the improved customer service and corporate communications, revenue generation with tenant lease space for key partners and job creators. Our operating revenues are broke down into this pie chart, with the majority of our revenue coming from taxation at 52%. Ontario and federal grants, such as OSIF and gas tax, are 16%, other municipalities at 1%, tenants at 6%, and fees and charges and other revenue takes up to 25%. Our tax-supported operating expenses are broken down as follows. Salary and benefits are 44%. Principal and interest on long-term debt at 1%, professional contracted services 12%, fuel and heating costs 2%, material and supplies 2%, utilities at 3%, transfers into reserves at 13%, police and police services board at 12%, and other is at 12%. Our 2023 payroll and compensation budget has a total FTE count of 74. This equates to total hours of 146,219, which is a 2% increase. Total payroll budget is $8,067,343. The CAO position is budgeted for a full year in 2023, where it was only budgeted for half a year in 2022. There are 14 summer student positions which will be subject to grant funding. Cost of living adjustment is a 2% increase, and due to some organizational changes, salary allocations have been adjusted between some of the departments. This next slide shows our capital projects and funding sources. So you will see in our capital schedules A to E that there will be projects outlined in equipment, rolling stock, facilities, roads, studies, and other. You'll see here it's broken down how these projects are being paid for, whether it be through taxation, reserves, DCs, debt, grants, and other. We will go into further details at each of the standing committees about these projects. The 2023 transfers to and from reserves, these are broken down over the next two slides. I just want you to note that these numbers are unaudited figures and that the 2022 ending balances are subject to change based on the 2022 year-end and audit. We started with a $13 million balance at the end of 2022, but I just want you to note that there are a considerable amount of projects started in 2022 that yet to be completed, so they will be financed over the next year or two. The next slide shows transfers to and from reserves with a 5-year comparator. So this just shows you how many transfers in and out of reserves over the last 5 years. Our long-term debt, these are our current debentures that we are paying for. Our first one is the Highway 60 downtown at $7.1 million. This was a 20-year debenture with annual repayments of $437,000. This will be paid in full by 2040 using the AMP1 reserve and water wastewater revenue. Landfill equipment, we have a debenture of $998,000. This is a 20-year debenture, annual repayments of $64,000 to be paid in full by 2039. This is offset by landfill revenues. Our sewage treatment plant is a $9.9 million debenture. This is a 40-year debenture with repayment amount of $582,000. This will be paid in full by 2051. It's offset by wastewater revenues. Our solar our solar debenture is a 20-year debenture with the repayment of $52,000 to be paid in full by 2036. This is offset by solar revenues from the MAC roof and the water treatment plant roof. Solar revenues are estimated at approximately $81,000 a year. The water treatment plant is $4 million. It's a 20-year debenture with repayments of $220,000 to be paid in full by 2027. This is offset by water revenues as well. Our Mattaway expansion, we are estimating a debenture of $12 million with payments commencing in 2024. The 2023 budget provides sufficient capacity for future debt payments if the term is 25 to 30 years. Temporary borrowing was needed in 2023, which is funded through the project's contingency. The term and the amount of debenture is to be determined by council in Q3, Q4 at a substantial completion date of the project, with the final debenture bylaw to come forward. The Argyle, Lochiel, and parts of Hull and Opeongo, there's an estimated requirement of debt of $3.6 million, which will occur in 2025. This next slide shows you your options of debenture payments and the cost of borrowing over the terms from 5 years to 30 years. We thought it was important to provide council with this information and what it would look like. Outlined are the 6 different options and the differences in the borrowing costs for each option. The long-term debt, I just thought I'd go over the annual repayment limit and keeping with the amount determined by the MMAH, which is the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Based on the 2020 FIR numbers, the revised annual repayment amount after the estimated Mattaway expansion debenture payment is well within our borrowing limits at $2.1 million. Is there any questions so far?
No questions so far?
We'll move forward.
Yeah, great
Okay.
job.
So next, we're going to go into our standing committees, Environment and Infrastructure and Public Works Committee. This standing committee is made up of 2 separate sections, so Infrastructure and Public Works and Water and Sewer as well. So an overview of revenue, total revenues of $722,000. Some of the highlights of those revenues are student grants, if received, vehicle recoveries from water and sewer, the loss of summer maintenance recovery from the county on the connecting link, so that's a loss of revenue, not an increase. The household hazardous waste and recycling programs are changing through the provincial initiative, and there's an extension of the food cycler pilot project with the 50% user payment. Changes in fees and charges are as follows. The third-party work per hour, the backhoe is increasing from $80 to $100, machine operator from 36 to 40, water technician 36 to 40, labor is 33 to 35, the scale attendant, which this is a new third-party addition, $40, machine operator $45, and a landfill opening fee of $100. Freon removal is going from $20 to $30, and bag tag is increasing from $2 to $3. The overall operating expenditure highlights the total operating costs for this department is $3.6 million. Total staffing is 20.55 FTEs, or 41,713 hours. The summer and winter maintenance review is $30,000. The repairs identified in the mandated bridge inspections is $20,000. Cold patching has a 10% increase. The line item you will find in your detailed budget is $22,000. The pedestrian crossing signals maintenance with the added units is a 50% increase, $15,000. The CPI increase curbside collection contract has an increase of 6.5%. This is $185,115. There's additional drain all work at the household hazardous waste depot of $30,000. The landfill groundwater easement of $15,000, reduction in recycling collection due to the transition of $200,000, and the purchase of 50 additional food cyclers at $20,000. Next, we'll move into the capital projects for the infrastructure and public works. The mechanic diagnostic equipment is a cost of $10,000. This is used for efficient fleet maintenance. This will be funded from the equipment reserve. The tandem truck replaces the 2007 Sterling truck. It was ordered in 2022 at a cost of $340,000. This will be funded from the rolling stock reserve. The trackless and attachments, this replaces the 2013 trackless. It's required for our sidewalk clearing. It's a cost of $190,000 plus $30,000 in attachments. This will be funded from the rolling stock reserve. Tires and rims for the landfill loader at a cost of $33,000. It's required due to the life cycle and safety. Funding from rolling stock reserve will pay for this. Next, we'll get into some of the roads projects. So Highway 60 Highway 60 O'Brien, Gillen to Mask completes the project from the 2022. Total project cost is $4.6 million. The 2021-2022 total cost is $3.3 million. 2023 estimated cost is $1.2 million. Funding for this project is from the Connecting Links of $3 million, the Canada Community Building Fund of $540,000, OSIF of $302,000, Water Reserve of $433,000, Shave and Pave Reserve of $350,000. The Highway 60 O'Brien Master Wrangler project. This was coordinated with MTO for off-ramp work and awaiting Connecting Link funding. This is the last section of the Connecting Link program, which will include a roundabout. Total project cost is $4.9 million. This project will span over 2023 to 2025. 2022 to 2023 costs are $667,000, with funding coming from Connecting Link and the Road Reserve. Joffrey Haig Dufferin, this tender was awarded to B.R. Fulton in 2022 with total project costs of $2.9 million. The project will span over 2022 to 2024. There were costs in 2022 and 2023 of $2.7 million. This is a full reconstruction of this road. Funding is coming from the Major Capital Reserve of $145,000, OSIF of $2.1 million, and Water and Sewer Reserves of $421,000. The Argyle, Lochiel, and parts of Opiongo and Hall is a 2022 to 2024 project. This includes full reconstruction, including underground services. There's a realignment of the Millennium Trail. Total project cost is $8.4 million. The 2022-2023 cost is $4.1 million, coming from the ISIP grant of $3.2 million, the AMP1 reserve of $315,000, AMP2 reserve of $298,000, and the water and sewer reserve each of $147,000. This will require future debt, which is estimated at $3.6 million, plus 2024 contributions from reserves. The 2023 Shave and Pave project, Gillen Road, this is Hall to O'Brien. It includes new multi-use pathways. The total project cost is $621,000. This is a 2023-2024 project. 2023 cost is $522,000, which is funded from OSIF. These next projects are design only and ready, shovel ready, which what we mean by this is that they're being designed but have no construction costs at this time. Having designs completed provides good support for grant applications. Monroe and Harry is $148,000. This is funded from the Roads Reserve. Dominion and Lynn is $176,000, which is funded from the Roads Reserve and the Water and Sewer Reserve. 8th Street is $154,000, funded from the Road and Water and Sewer Reserve. Mattaway Drive water main replacement of $40,000. This is funded from the Water Reserve, and the Hall Avenue expansion right-of-way of $80,000, which is funded from the DC transportation charges. Other projects are the McNabb Crescent sidewalk and curb. 2023 costs are $70,000, which is funded from the Roads Reserve. The Maloney Road collapse culvert, which is an ongoing project from 2022 to 2023 with costs of $691,000. That's funded from OSIF. The Master Transportation Plan, this is a 2022-2023 project with costs of $173,000. Funding from the unallocated reserve due to not enough funds in the DCs as of yet. The new Public Works garage, the land was purchased, so the costs of $179,000 will be paid for from unallocated. The water and wastewater budget, so this is an overview of the revenue and expenditures. As you can see, the money that comes in goes out. Some of the highlights on the money that's being spent is the 29 Arthur Avenue land strip purchase of $30,000. There's minor capital maintenance with wastewater costs of $249,000 and water of $193,000. Contributions to reserve and water is $362,000. Contributions from reserve in the sewer is $89,000. The aqua contract for water is $700,000, and the aqua contract for sewer is $905,000. Changes in fees and charges are some changes in the consumption rates. The water rate is going from $2.68 per cubic meter to $2.75 per cubic meter. Wastewater rate from $2.42 per cubic meter to $2.44. The change in base rate for water is $42.30 to $44.84. The wastewater rate goes from $48.94 to $49.42, and these are based on regular meter sizes. Other sizes are increased proportionately. Some of the capital projects for water and wastewater is the manganese treatment system. This is to address the water discoloration arising from the source drinking water, which is the Boncher River. The total cost for this project is $614,000, which this project will span from 2022 to 2024. 2022 to 2023 costs are $564,000, which is funded from the Water Reserve. The standpipe, which is the water tower mixing system, requires this mixing system, which was removed due to the deficiency with the manufacturer, which is subject to claim. The total cost of this is $663,000. It's a 2023-2024 project. Costs in 2023 are $62,000, which is funded from the water reserve. And any questions from the Environment, Infrastructure, and Public Works?
Councilor McWhorter?
I have a couple of questions, Your Worship, through you too, Aaron. First off, I'm not sure people watching are aware that these are going back to committee for discussion. So I didn't talk about the Mattaway project because I sit on finance, and I'm sure there'll be a lively conversation about that when it gets there. I do have a couple of questions about the road projects. The ones that have they all been, I don't remember voting on them, but the Shave and Pave project in Gillen, did that come to council, or was that part of, are any of these that are on here, like, we also have the 8th Street and Monroe and is that still got to go to council for a vote to go ahead with on those projects, or?
Yeah, I think Director Haslund, you can answer, because it still has to go to
Yes.
committee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can answer that. There's several projects like the Joffrey Hague Dufferin was fully committed by the previous council. So they approved the engineering, they approved the construction award to the contractor and what have you. The design of Dominion and Lynn and 8th and Monroe and Harry, the design was was essentially approved by the previous council as well, so we're proceeding to that stage. Now, the projects that are included in here, the Gillen Road from Hall to O'Brien, that's a brand-new project, so council has full discretion in considering that one for approval this year. Argyle Lock Hill, I think we discussed that previously, where we're fully bound to construct that. The Monroe, or the Maloney Road culvert project, has not been committed. The design is complete, and we won't be going to tender unless it's approved in the budget. Yeah, so there's several projects in here that are ongoing from previous council's direction, and there's some new ones that need further council direction.
And so that'll go to committee for discussion before it comes here?
That's correct.
Okay. Also, I have one more. The magnesium, we talked to the minister about that, and I'm just wondering, we've got it in our budget, but I assume we haven't heard anything good back from the ministry on that. I was kind of hoping you'd have a good news story.
No, we will follow up with the minister, but I don't think there's money there, but
Okay.
we definitely won't let it go.
All right, thank you.
Questions, council? No? All right. On to the next one.
She's tagging out.
Turning it over to the deputy treasurer.
Giving her a water break. Just 2 seconds and we'll continue on with the planning. All right, so the Economic Development and Planning and Tourism Committee, which this will be seen at the Standing Committee. The first slide here we have is the Planning and Development Department. One back shows all the codes in the line-by-line item that council's been provided. The next one shows the overview of the revenues and some changes in fees and surcharges. So the total revenue for this department is 1.35 million. Couple of highlights: the 550 Hall. We have some cost recoveries for roof and the renegotiation of a 99-year lease. Some work to be done with the One Innovation Drive leases, a service agreement with Greater Madawaska for planning and building services, ongoing increase in building activity, continued support of strategic partners, i.e. the BIA, Chamber of Commerce and Enterprise, Renfrew County. And lastly, there are some summer student grants that are applied for as identified in the payroll section. Changes in fees and charges. Under planning, added some legal charges, so charges back. We have the increase in the official plan amendment application, the zoning bylaw amendment application, the removal of the holding symbol has changed from 900 to 700. The site plan application has gone up from 1,400 to 2,000. And there is the draft plan of subdivision and a subdivision condo agreement, as well as a development agreement application. So on to the next slide, we have some highlights for expenditures. The total operating costs of the Planning and Development Department is 1.68 million. Total staffing, 3 full-time employees, or 5,460 hours. There's some new building software, City Reporter, that is being implemented or investigated anyways in that department. There's updated expenditures for One Innovation after 1 year of the town's operations. And lastly, the reallocation of staffing costs based on the 2022 staffing structure, as also identified in the payroll slide. Into the capital projects or capital items. First up is a thermal drone, a cost of $12,000. It can be used for inspection and site reviews. This is to be funded from the equipment reserve. Second, we have the official plan review, growth management plan, and attainable housing strategy. This is to align the town of Renfrew official plan with the county of Renfrew official plan amendments that were just made in 2022, or 2021, sorry, as well as Provincial Planning Act changes. It is also to position the town for growth and examine the current housing in a total cost of $100,000. And this will be funded from development charges, which we've been referring to as DCs, under the administrative studies. And secondary plan, so the industrial land secondary plan, it is to review parceling for potential land sales, review some hotel feasibility, in-house with technical support from expert consultants as required for a cost of $20,000, and that will be funded from the One Innovation Drive Reserve. Another secondary plan is the Opiongo area, so Opiongo Road. The intent is to review the area for servicing, road networking, and future potential development. It includes town-owned lands as well as privately held lands. Again, this is also to support any potential future growth at a cost of approximately $130,000, and that is also to be funded from development charges, a combination of water, wastewater, and transportation streams. Assessment and appraisals, this is being done to review value of town-owned buildings for potential surplus and or sale and or future lease negotiations. It'll be $15,000. The lands or areas included will be One Innovation, 550 Hall, and 67 Argyle. And that again will be funded from the One Innovation Reserve. And secondly, the economic development reviews. This is to incorporate the business improvement area, community improvement plan, business retention and expansion at a cost of approximately $35,000, and that'll be funded from the Rural Economic Development Grant, which we've applied for, also known as the RED Grant. 550 Hall needs a new roof, so the cost of that will be $800,000. This would be recovered from the tenant with interest over a 10-year period. In the meantime, the town will also be, will have to, renegotiate the 99-year lease. So it'll include regular lease payments and an out clause. And any questions or answers for that specific committee?
Council McQuarrie?
Through you, Mayor. To you, Joe. Just the Opiongo Road that you're looking at possible development for. That's to open up, just to be clear, that's to open up property we already own out that way, right? For future development?
Yeah, we own some of it, and then some of it's privately owned as well. So it's to look at what we can do there.
And Eric and Mike can add here. Those lands, the privately owned lands, aren't in the official plan as developable land, so they're not even, so the goal is to look at them for servicing, to have them kind of change designation so they can be developed. There's 3 large parcels, and I know there's one developer that's looking at parceling. There's also the master transportation plan is looking at an arterial corridor through the area. So for those lands to be moved to growth, they have to be studied to look at if they can actually, how they'd be serviced. So it's that kind of foundational work. And then the developers of those 3 large parcels would be responsible for their due diligence. But this is just from our perspective in terms of getting them into the developable land, because I'm not sure what their current designation is, and Eric can add that.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Mayor Sidney. So yeah, this first step would be kind of characterization and kind of due diligence work, as CEO Tremblay noted. So I think a couple of points, and I think Mike will speak to this. So these lands are not currently designated for development. They are not within the bounds of the master servicing plan. So if we're going to look at these lands for potential future development, we're going to need to determine we're going to need to characterize the lands in terms of where the developable areas are and are not, from both servicing and environmental and topographic perspective. There's a lot that we don't know about this area of town, and so we need to I guess invest a little bit of money in order to determine what the development potential of the area is.
Councillor Smolsky?
The private-owned lands, are they within the town of Renfrew borders, or are they outside? It's very close to our borderline there.
They're within. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor McWhorter?
First, I think I called you Joel. It's because I've known you guys since you're kids. I'm just wondering about the drone thing. Would that be somebody that would be already trained with town, or would that be taken on by somebody?
My understanding is that the couple of town staff will be at training on it, but I can turn that over to Mr. Withers to explain the complication of that.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Mayor Sidney. So my understanding is it's not difficult to get licensed to fly these drones under a certain weight. So our EDO is undergoing that training, and so he'll know how to fly it. We'll probably have another staff person that knows how to fly it. The idea here, and our CBO will likely get licensed as well. It kind of started. The CBO had brought it up as an inspection tool just for large buildings, and being able to kind of inspect the roof area and mechanical areas of large buildings without having to physically go up there. And then we kind of got to talking about, opportunities to use it for economic development, for marketing, for land sales. We have hundreds of acres of land, and obviously they present really well with drone photography. And then just talking to some other departments, like fire, in terms of applications for emergency services, which is why we've got the kind of the thermal piece to it. These companies, there's a number of different features that you can request on them depending on the capabilities that you would like them to have. And so just with some discussions, it sounds like they're used quite frequently for search and rescue in nighttime situations, water rescue, that kind of thing. So it's something that we think is pretty good value and could get some good use across the town.
Any other questions? Hearing none, carry on.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. Next up, we have, the Recreation, Fire and Protective Services Committee. Starting off, we will be discussing the Fire and Protective Services Department. An overview of their revenue. Their total revenue budgeted is $115,300. Couple of highlights. There are some new agreements with Greater Madawaska for fire inspections. The Renfrew Fire Department does bulk water sales. Those figures are based off of actuals. There's also a discontinuation of school recoveries for crossing guards. That's within the scope of the bylaw, and anyways, that's under the fire department. Changes in fees and charges. Couple to note, the record checks and compliance letters are changing from $75 to $100. Inspection and compliance for under 6 units is changing from changing from 75 to 100 per hour, in keeping with 6 units or more, and there's a service charge for the online burn permits. The operating expenditures, some highlights: total operating costs, $2 million. Total staffing, 12.65 full-time employees, or the equivalent of 27,107 hours, excluding volunteer firefighters. The allocation of staff time for emergency management has also been included. Basic emergency management and IMS training. A slight reduction in staffing costs due to new recruits, but there is an increase for uniforms for new staff. The replacement of one portable under communications, bylaw and property standards, inflationary increase to contracted services, and lastly, an increase in crossing guard wages due to recent salary review. So into the capital projects and items, we start with equipment. So there's communications equipment budgeted for $40,000, bunker gear, $30,000, fire hoses, $10,000. These will be funded with the equipment reserve and from a miscellaneous reserve. On the right, you'll see the half-ton pickup truck. It replaces a 2011 Dodge, which is being moved to planning and building to reduce mileage. This truck was ordered in 2022. It is to be received in Q1 2023 at a cost of $70,600, and it will be funded from the rolling stock reserve. Next up, we have the Fire Training Center project. So it's a cost of $10,000. It will prepare for construction in 2024 at a town-owned pit. It is to meet new provincial training requirements. There's potential for future revenue and partnerships with other fire departments, and it will be funded from facilities. There's also fire hall work in the budget. So the roof, which was started in 2022 at a cost of $80,000. There's some parging and brick repointing for $45,000. A ventilation system for $100,000, and that will all be funded from the facilities reserve. The fire master plan is also in the budget for 2023. It includes a community risk assessment, a review of the fire hall, a review of the establishing bylaw, and levels of service at a cost of $90,000, and it will be funded from development charges under administrative studies. So into the second department within the committee, we are in Parks and Recreation. For an overview of revenue, there's a total of $1.66 million of revenue within the department. Some highlights, as mentioned previously, as well as the summer student grant applications that have been prepared. Some naming and sponsorships rights in a total of $40,000. There are municipal agreements. There's transfer from reserves for the tennis courts that were completed in 2022. There's an increase in the fitness center memberships, an increase in the youth activity registrations, which were based on actuals, increase in gymnastic registrations, which are also based on actuals. There's revenue shifting from the rec center to the Mattaway Activity Center. The tennis court membership revenues are based on a full year of service, just because of the time of the year that the courts are actually completed in 2022. The lease revenues at Mattaway are going to be highlighted. The increase in ice rentals with the second ice pad are going to be highlighted in this budget. And lastly, the event revenue, including ticket sales. So to highlight the changes in the fees and charges, we'll start with the ice rates. So these are based on hourly rates for the 23-24 season. School has changed from $62.50 to $65. Minor 18 and under is from $125 to $130. Junior A or B from $180 to $185. Adult 19 plus from $195 to $200. And there has been an elimination of shinny. The soccer fields, they're rented out. They're increased at $1 an hour. So the minors from 27 to 28, and the adults from 41 up to 42. The ball diamonds, they're at Mattaway as well. The minor from $35 lit and $29 per hour unlit are changing to $36 and $30 respectively. Adult, same setup, lit and unlit, 46 and 36 is being changed to 47 and 37 per hour. There's an introduction of minor and adult tournament rates, and it is on a per day basis. So minor, Monday to Thursday, you have 200 lit, 150 unlit. Minor as well, Friday to Sunday, 300 lit and 225 unlit. And then for adults, Monday to Thursday, 325 lit, 250 unlit. And on the weekends, Friday to Sunday, 400 lit and 275 unlit. And then another miscellaneous change in fees and charges is a track meet increasing from $250 to $275. And then the deletion of community hall decorating daily rate, which was $175 a day. So that's being deleted. At the new facility, there's some changes in the fees and charges for the rec center. The gymnasium per hour is changing from $35 an hour down to $25 an hour. The multi-purpose room 1, which is the former games room, is going to change from $20 an hour to $17.50 an hour. Room 3, the former hobby room, to change from $15 to $12.50 an hour. The dance studio, which will be new, will be $20 an hour. The removal of the kitchen, which is a $25 flat fee, has been removed. Another eliminated item is the combo fee for use of gym, games room, conference room at the rec center, and that's in the amount of $360. And then the visitor information center, which is seen in the top corner of the slide, the removal of the hourly rate, and it can only book on half or full days, so $90 for a half day and $150 for a full day. This slide has the change in the fitness membership fees. So you'll see on the slides we have the changes between 1, 3, 6 months, 1 year, and a daily fee. They've changed, and you'll see the breakdown of the resident, non-residents there as well. So. The operating expenditure highlights for the Parks and Recreation Department. The total operating costs are $2.679 million. Total staffing, it is made up of 15.3 full-time equivalents, or 30,495 hours. There's an events coordinator position for civic and signature events. Summer and winter maintenance review, that is being done through Public Works and the Treasury Department, or Corporate Services Department as well, so it's a group initiative. The rec portion is $30,000. There's a downtown horticulture contract going out for $30,000 approximately. Additional hours for CSR for Mattaway, approximately $16,000. The funding of the tennis courts to be completed in 2023. The courts were built in 2022. The town is going to finance them in 2023 in the amount of $619,000. And there will be an increase in operating costs with the Mattaway facility expanding in the amount of $551,000. Into the capital and projects. So we have the playground structure at Mattaway being replaced. The cost is $210,000. Tender was awarded in 2022, and it is funded through a grant from Commemorate Canada, and the residual will be funded from the equipment reserve. There's a picture there of the existing play structure. The Recreation Department will also be looking at picking up a 2023 pickup truck long box. It will replace the 07 that's currently there. There's potential for a hybrid electric and sharing and looking at some collaboration with other municipalities looking for the same sort of initiative. The estimated cost would be approximately $80,000, and that would be funded from a miscellaneous reserve. 3 items here. We have the ball diamond groomer, approximately $10,000. This is for proper ball diamond maintenance. It would be funded from the miscellaneous reserve. The Mattaway trails that are up in the bush lot that we own there, there's a plan for a gravel parking lot on Opeongo Road at a cost of approximately $10,000 to access the trails. There'd be a shelter potentially built. Materials would be required for that in the amount of $7,000, and that would be funded from the facilities reserve. And the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, a cost of $85,000. This master plan would review the pool feasibility, updates to the 2011 plan, review amenities, and the Mattaway site plan, and that would be funded with DCs, or development charges, under administrative studies. A couple more items. We have the swinging bridge lighting, $25,000. That would be funded through taxation. The Forgy O'Brien Mill Museum Waterfront Concept Plan, approximate cost of $30,000. That would be funded from the land reserve. And the O'Brien Park fencing would be a cost of $75,000, and that would be funded from the facilities reserve. The next slide is a couple pictures and conceptual pictures and up-to-date pictures of the Mattaway facilities. A little bit of a segue into the next slide. We have the Mattaway Activity Center expansion. As council's seen at some previous meetings, the total anticipated cost of $28,692,000. This expansion includes an Indigenous Cultural Center, tenant spaces, second ice pad, elevated walking track, fitness center, gymnasium, multipurpose rooms. This also incorporates the remaining contingency of $1.5 million. And council has previously seen the funding of it as well, or the estimated funding, but we will go over it here on the slide. So we have the second ice pad committee with $132,000, the rec major capital reserve funding $15,000, outdoor rink reserve funding $65,000. We have grant funding of $11.8 million from ISIP, development charges through recreation in $173,000. And then the town will also be recovering $4.5 million through tenant leases and leasehold improvement recovery over 10 years. So, and then lastly, as discussed previously, is the potential for a $12 million debt, i.e. a debenture, to cover the residual. And there is a overhead shot of the facility under construction, presumably from this summer. Yeah. And then some of the new components at Mattaway is the second ice pad seating and the bleachers for the gymnasium totaling $65,000, 40 and 25 respectively. Those would both be funded through the Recreation Fundraising Committee. Well, that is the recommendation of staff, and that the staff would have to request those fundings, that funding at the time if council deemed that be the appropriate funding method. The next item would be the gymnastics equipment, $125,000. That would be funded by the Recreation Mattaway Component Reserve. The fitness center equipment, $150,000, funded by the Mattaway Recreation Component Reserve. And the transformer, $331,000, funded by the unallocated reserve. And lastly, the floor scrubber, $12,000, that'd be out of equipment. All right, into policing. So policing is made up of OPP contract costs, the police service board costs, and disbandment costs. The total revenues are approximately $390,389, and it includes grant funding for the Community Connection Center and Situational Table organization. And then the expenditures are totaling $2.2 million. The OPP billing costs are 1.8, which is decreased by 66,000 from last year, so that's good. The net levy costs, which is the contract, is about 1.8 million. The OPP Police Service Board net costs are 31,000, and the disbandment costs are $8,462. And that brings us to the end of that committee.
Any questions, council? Keeping in mind this all goes to committee. Councillor Legree?
Just one quick one. Through you, Mayor Sidney, the disbandment cost of $8,400, that's from when we went from town police to OPP, like we're still paying for that?
Yeah, I believe it's part of somebody's pension, if I'm not mistaken.
To age 65 or death.
Okay, okay, thanks.
All right. Oh, Councilor McWhirter?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm happy to see, and I'm sure the rest of council members are happy to see the Forgy O'Brien Middle Museum Waterfront Concept Plan. It's something we've all talked about at one time or another, and most towns or municipalities that have water running through them take advantage of that and do a real nice job of making that a plus for their town, and I'm happy to see we've got some concept going on. So, great.
Perfect. Yes, and the lighting as well, if it does continue to go through the budget, is the concept is to light the bridge, light the water, like light it up down there, because if you go down there at night, it is actually pitch black dark, and there's, I think, 2 to 3 lights at the bridge, and that's about it. So safety is for that as well, but also probably a draw for tourism. So that's a big concept going on down there. I think it's going to be a great thing. Any other questions? Next, passing the torch? Yeah. Okay.
So next, we'll move on to the Strategic Priorities Corporate and Community Services Committee, starting off with the Corporate Services Department. So this includes, you'll see the items listed on the cover page. The Corporate Services Department, an overview of the revenue, total revenues of $19,589,000. So this is made up, a large proportion of this is taxation, so from the town, county, and school board levies. There's a reduction in the payment in lieu of taxes for the archives building, an increase in OMPF funding, a slight increase in the interest on accounts and investment, the transfer from reserve for the SMT transition, summer student grants, town hall tenancies, the introduction of new revenue sources and service of civil marriage ceremonies, and the reduction of provincial dedicated gas tax supporting the Sunshine Coach. Some changes to the fees and charges are the dog and cat tag increase from $10 to $20, which is January to March 31st, and $12 to $25 for the remainder of the year from April to December 31st. A replacement tag cost $1. We're increasing that to $5. Commissioning from 10 to 15 for in-town residents, 15 to 20 for out-of-town residents. The introduction of marriage civil ceremonies is $250. The NSF fee from $40 to $45. Photocopies at 25 cents to 50 cents. And tax and water certificates from $40 to $60. Some of the operating expenditure highlights from this department. The total operating cost is approximately $10 million. Total staffing is 12.7 FTE or 23,050 hours. Includes transfers to county and school boards for the tax levy of $5.3 million, mayor and member of council for $385,000, a finance review of $25,000, the Access E11 service requests and complaint software of $15,200, eScribe electronic agenda management, which you are all utilizing, a cost of $25,000. The increase in public relations line of 33%, so this is a line item of $20,000. Grants to organizations of $25,000. Contributions to the Health Service Village of $32,000. The IT contracted services, which includes a new website and cybersecurity, of $81,000. HR services with the County of Renfrew of $30,000, and contracting out of our janitorial services of $30,000, and the transfer to Sunshine Coach, which is essentially we receive the money, we pay it back out, of $251,000. Some of the capital projects within this department are financial asset management and budgeting software. The cost is $150,000. This is to digitize some of our manual processes for efficiency and effectiveness. This would be funded from the unallocated reserve. There's town hall renos, which commenced in 2022 and includes tenant spaces in the old detachment building. The cost is $1.1 million. This is to be funded from the facilities reserve of $600,000. Tenant leases, payments of $500,000, which $25,000 would commence in 2023 and $50,000 going forward for the next 10 years. Town hall digital signage, a cost of $80,000 to be funded from the facilities reserve. The branding signage wayfinding review, it's a cost of $45,000. This would be funded from the unallocated reserve. This would update some of our signage, and as you can see it in the picture, this notes some of what our signage currently looks like, so it could use some updating. The communications and stakeholder engagement strategy to improve town communications is a cost of $45,000 to be funded from the unallocated reserve. Next up is the Community Services and Library Department. The overview of revenue is $144,000. Highlights of this are the accessibility grant, federal and provincial grants, and lease revenue. The overview of expenditures is a total of $948,000. This is net of the municipal taxation library transfer of $535,000. So this is an increase of $3,561 from 2022. Some of the highlights are reallocation of staff costs of $143,000, online resources of $16,000, building and repairs and maintenance of $12,000, and renovations for the tenants of $40,000, which is to be funded from the tenants, and circulation desk renovations of $30,000. Part of this will be funded by the accessibility grant of $19,000, and the remainder to be financed from the facilities reserve. The McDougall Mill Museum, there's a transfer of $50,000 from the municipality, which is an increase from $33,000 in 2022. The town is responsible for insurance and utilities totaling $3,655. Replacement of the windows and doors at a cost of $60,000 would be funded from the facilities reserve. The NHL Museum is a rental income of $15,000, a transfer of $8,365, an increase from $8,120 in 2022. We're looking at an arts, heritage, and culture master plan, a cost of $40,000. This would be funded from a Trillium grant. Any questions?
Council, any questions? Hearing none.
So this next slide is just to reiterate basically where we started, what the town is looking at for our strategic outcomes based on this budget. And the next slide shows what our total budget is for tax-supported water, wastewater capital. It's a $79 million budget. That's impressive. The total tax-supported operating budget is $23 million, total water budget of $2.8 million, total wastewater budget of $2.7, and a total capital budget of $49 million. So, the tax levy, what you've all been waiting for. So how much money is required for capital operating expenditures? The 2023 levy, proposed levy, is $10.1 million. This is an increase from the 2022 levy of $529,000. A 1% levy increase is equivalent to $96,000. Our proposed 2023 levy is 6.45%. With the growth of 2.46%, this was the total impact on a ratepayer of 3.99%. This below represents what the town portion of tax impact per assessment is, what the impact is. So on the estimated annual tax impact on $100,000 worth of assessment is $43. The estimated annual tax impact on the average household impact or assessment is $73. The next steps are as follows. As you've seen in the beginning, we're tabling the budget tonight. The next couple weeks, it will be going to the standing committees with hopes to adopt April 11th and the tax rates set May 23rd.
Well, first off, I want to commend the Treasury Department and all staff members that had to put their budgets together. This presentation is very impressive. I think over my 9th budget, and I like this. I just want to sort of reiterate that, you know, the average impact is $73 a year, not a week, not a month. That's a year. So, you know, it is an increase, but it's, I think, with everything that's going on in the world and the way that inflation's hitting everybody hard, I think you guys have done a phenomenal job to get it at 3.9 for an $80 million budget. And I think if council, once you get a chance to really absorb this and review it and notice what's in there, I think there's a lot of things in there that we've talked about, we've talked to community members about, we've campaigned on, and I think it's a very impressive document. And I look forward to the committees to dissect it and discuss it and then bring it back to council. Anybody else have any questions? Statement? None? All right. Oh, okay.
Through you, Mayor, just on the second last page, with regard to the middle line, you're talking about a 2023 levy at 6.45%. The second part where it gets into 2022 with the CVA growth. So what if that doesn't take place? Worst case scenario, right? How does that factor into stuff? I know the final result, if we take that in at 2.46%, we get down to under 4% for the impact on the ratepayer. Just explain that to me. If the worst case scenario takes place, how does that affect tax increase later? Thank you.
You're welcome. Through you, Mayor Sidney. So if the growth were not to occur, if we didn't have that growth included, then the levy would remain at the 6.45%.
Last year's growth.
But that's last year's growth included.
Yeah,
It's already happened. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, if I may, Mr. Mayor, that's the importance of a lot of the initiatives in this budget in terms of prepping for growth, because you see that's essentially those 2 of the 3 buildings from Le Pen, and this is the impact on the bottom line. There are other factors playing into growth, but that's growth that has occurred in 2022 that helped the bottom line. So what it does is we're able to be aggressive on the infrastructure projects, looking how we improve our operations and our customer service and our communications, but do a lot of infrastructure work. I know the director it will be very busy, as will be every director, including in planning, where we're looking at a lot of growth. But growth really makes a difference in terms of the bottom line, and that this is growth from 2022 that has already occurred. It does not factor in future revenue that would be generated with new growth coming in 2023 and 2024. This is 2022 related growth that's already factored in.
Yeah, I didn't catch the 2022, and thank you for the clarification.
Director Aslan, you want to say something?
Yes, you know, the CAO Tremblay makes a good point about growth, and you know, we talk about water and sewer rates, and a lot of our costs are essentially fixed costs to deliver and to set up to deliver a lot of the services that we do offer, and growth is essential in being able to put more customers on to pay for that fixed cost. So certainly, you know, growth is a very important element of the community, and to be sustainable with the services we provide and try to keep the rates as effective as possible. Growth is very much encouraged, and it helps us distribute that cost amongst more users.
Anything else? I think it's also important to note that capital and projects is $50 million. That's pretty impressive work that's going to get done. So, any other? Councillor Degree?
Through you, Mayor Sidney, I just want to echo your words. I know there's going to be some back and forth with the budget, but this is like really well done. Like, it's unbelievable. I've been through lots of budget presentations with jobs and stuff, and this is like top notch. So, a couple of sleepless nights, I'm sure, but you're here. Thanks.
All right, I will read the motion again. That Renfrew Town Council table the 2023 draft budget and refer to the standing committee for detailed review. We have a mover and a seconder. Any other questions? Is that a question? No. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Council. On to Recreation, Fire, and Protective Services. Councillor Degree, did you want to give a brief? I know you don't have a bullet point this time. But
I don't have a bullet point, but we won't get into that right now.
maybe
We'll discuss it later. Anyway, just a couple of quick things. I'll try to go through it as quick as possible, but we had a Recreation, Fire, and Protective Services meeting. Director Wall kicked off with an update on the services the rec team delivers. We have a lot of great programs that the rec team puts on, and I would encourage everyone to visit the town website for more information on that. We then moved on to the aquatic services agreement with the town of Arnprior. So this is the pool agreement that we do every year. The agreement this year has changed a little bit. We'll be paying the non-user rate. So basically, a Renfrew resident will pay what the Arnprior residents pay. The previous agreements were kind of outdated and confusing. So this new model, which is a pay-per-person model, will streamline that. The estimated $9,200 would be added in the 2023 budget, and that's based on prior usage. We then went into Mattaway Activity Center expansion update. Director Wall gave us an update on how the expansion is coming. At the time of the committee, there was no major delays, and the project was still on schedule for completion mid-June 2023. There hasn't been an increase in project costs since the last update, which is really good. And the building is pretty much enclosed in, and work inside is coming along good with drywall and electrical being done. I just want to let the public know that we'll be doing a monthly update on how the expansion is coming along at our committee meetings, which you can view on YouTube or join us live in council chambers. Councillor Dick at the time suggested we update at the committee where we're standing with financial on the project, which is a great idea. So we'll be adding that in, that financial piece in. Moving into fire services, Chief Guest gave us an update on the January monthly report, which was received. Then we talked about the agreement between the Township of Greater Madawaska and the town of Renfrew for provisions of fire service. As part of this agreement, Renfrew will provide frequent reporting to Greater Madawaska Council regarding fire inspection activities as deemed necessary. And an initial 12-month period is proposed with potential 2-year renewals. So basically, Renfrew will look after fire inspections in the Township of Greater Madawaska with the possibility of other fire-related components, such as public education, pre-incident planning. There's also the opportunity to provide technical advice and guidance. All staff time will be recouped at a job rate plus 25%. Renfrew shall be reimbursed for costs such as travel, etc., as part of the agreement. Moving into the volunteer recruitment with the fire department. As you know, the Renfrew Fire Service is a composite department made up of both full-time and volunteer firefighters. The department likes to maintain 12 volunteer firefighters at all time. Currently, they have 7 members, which initialized the recruitment process. The department ran advertising in newspapers and social media channels. The department also attended Junior A hockey game to advertise and promote the recruitment. The recruitment, which closed on February 17th, brought in 15 applications, which Chief Guest and team are currently going through and moving forward with the process. And lastly, the open air burn permits are now online. So residents of the town of Renfrew can now create an account online, purchase their burn permit, and this change will streamline the fire permits and will make it easier for residents to obtain. It'll also let staff change the fire risk level, if there is one, which will be emailed out directly to the resident. At the time of committee, there was 12 accounts open so far, with 5 burn permits issued. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On to D41, Aquatic Service Agreement. The motion is the Renfrew Town Council approve an aquatic service agreement with the town of Arnprior. Mover, please. Councilor McWhorter, second by Councilor Legree. Any questions on this? I think Councilor Legree gave a brief description on how residents of Renfrew can go swim in Arnprior for the same cost as an Arnprior resident. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. Fire inspections, D42. That Renfrew Town Council approve the agreement between the Township of Greater Madawaska and the Town of Renfrew for the provisions of fire services. A mover, please. Councillor Sabulski, second by Councillor Legree. Absolutely.
If I may, just on behalf of Fire Chief Guest, just to clarify what we're doing here, it's about 10 inspections so far that we think, and that the our staff time and travel time will be paid for by Greater Madawaska, so the hourly rate of pay plus 25%. So just for the residents watching at home to understand kind of the scope of that agreement, it's an initial 10 mandatory inspections that they're having difficulty completing, so our very good team will assist them, and we're basically recuperating all our costs plus 25%.
Thank you. It also continues the great collaborations with our neighboring municipalities, and we have a really great relationship with Greater Madawaska, so it's nice to see. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Council. On to D5. Strategic priorities and corporate services. I believe, CEO Tremblay, you're going to do a brief overview on behalf of Revimo.
Yes, and in future, if a chair is not available, we'll let another member in advance know so you can present. But we anticipated that the Reeve would be able to join us, but he's at an event on behalf of the County of Renfrew and wasn't able to log in on time. So just to not put any of you on the spot, I'll be put on the spot. So just a quick update. We did, on the HR side, inform the committee of a few important initiatives. So the introduction of performance appraisal forms. So we didn't really have a robust program, and we are going to be introducing one for the entire staff team. We did a focus group with some of our newer employees to get their feedback on how best to onboard them, and so there's an onboarding program. And we'll also be doing an employee engagement survey, and all three of these initiatives are with the assistance of the County of Renfrew to get a baseline understanding of how employees are feeling, and then that baseline can be measured in future years. The clerk's team is working on a licensing bylaw review as directed through the initiative of Councillor McWhirter. So the clerk presented a time frame, I think in March and April. Some of that work will be reported back to standing committee over the spring. Clerk Bulmer and with members of the other members of the team, we're doing a review of our group benefit plan. That was directed by Finance Committee in the last term of council, so that's ongoing. Our renewal is January 1st, so we'll be reporting back to committee probably before the summer break on that status. And our insurance renewal is May, and we're just making sure that the renewals for One Innovation and 550 Hall are dovetailed so that all our insurance is renewing at the same time. But we will be doing a fulsome review in 2020, like we'll go out to tender in 2024, but we'll get a 1-year renewal just due to the timing. There are separate reports on the promissory note, town hall, and business hub, as well as the 2023 water wastewater rates. Due to billing, the first billing must go out before the adoption of the budget, so we're recommending that the draft 2.5% increase be authorized by council for the first billing. Should council, as part of the budget process, reduce that, it would be reflected in future billings, but we need direction from council to do so, and due to the nature of the capital and the operating costs, we need to proceed. And I should just note that we know that consumption is down the equivalent of about 1% of the charge. So what that will do is provide an additional crunch to the numbers in future years. So we just need direction to be able to proceed with this billing, and then if council reduces the rates downward, that would take effect in future billings. The town hall renovations, we're anticipating to go to tender for a general contractor for a fixed price contract with a 10% contingency. Sorry, that's a bit of a joke, but so we're anticipating that we'll start that work in April and have it completed by September. We're really excited. The second report deals with a business hub. So the former detachment center, we have a preferred tenant. We hope to announce soon who that will be, a government agency that is a good strategic partner for part of the space. And then there's three groups, the BIA, the Chamber, and Community Futures Development Corporation that would be part of a business hub that would be off the lobby, that part of the space. And those two tenancies would bring in about $50,000 of revenue a year, plus any leasehold improvements that they would request. So the direction for both those reports coming forward is for staff to negotiate those leases and bring them back. And we're looking for the town hall space with the government agency, a base rate of $18.17, which is in keeping with the Toronto office rate average from Q3 2022. So it's not a number we've pulled out of our hat. It's a number that's in keeping with kind of the sector, plus any leasehold improvements they would be responsible for. And we're anticipating an announcement on who that government agency is early next week. And so on behalf of Revimo, who wasn't able to join the meeting, I just share that information.
Thank you very much. On to D51, promissory note, Renfrew Power Generation and Renfrew Hydro. So there's actually two motions here. The first one is the Renfrew Town Council authorized the clerk to provide confirmation to Renfrew Power Generation, RPG, that the town of Renfrew, as the sole shareholder of the corporation, has no intentions of demanding payment of the promissory note in 2023. Mover, please. Councillor McWhorter, seconded by Councillor Legree. Any questions on this? Hearing none. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Council. Motion number 2, the Renfrew Town Council authorized the clerk to provide confirmation to Renfrew Hydro, Inc. that the town of Renfrew, as the sole shareholder of the corporation, has no intentions of demanding payment of the promissory note in 2023. Mover, please. Councillor Legree, seconded by Councillor McWhorter. Any questions? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Council. D52, water rates. That Renfrew Town Council authorized an overall increase of 2.5% to the water and wastewater rates based upon the study provided to the town by Watson and Associates. A mover, please. Oh,
Mr. Mayor, if we can add to the motion, just for clarity in terms of the budget process, what billing is it, Aaron? For the January, February 2023 billing, which, just to clarify, it's for that billing, and then as council deliberates on water and wastewater and then decides on that number, if there's any changes, that would take effect on the other billing.
Okay.
But we want to make sure that there's sufficient revenue coming in. So if we could just add that to the tail end of the motion.
so I'll read that again. The Renfrew Town Council authorized an overall increase of 2.5% to the water and wastewater rates based upon the study provided by the town, to the town by Watson and Associates for the months of January and February 2023? January, February billing of 2023. Mover by, we got that already? Mover? McWhorter? Councillor Legree? Any questions? Councillor McWhorter?
Okay, so I said on finance, this came to finance, and as you guys know that said on finance with me, I had reservations about passing this 2.5 increase for even now. It's thanks to the great job that Aaron and Joel did. I'm okay with passing the rate for now, and we'll definitely look at it after that. Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah, I think I think it's a good idea to just justify again that it's for this billing period, and then it has to go back to committee for review. So any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Council. On to D53, Town Hall renovations and tenant update. The Renfrew Town Council direct the CAO to negotiate a lease with a preferred tenant for a portion of the former detachment space of 1,627 square feet. Mover, please. Councillor Legree, second by Councillor Sobalski. Any questions? Councillor Sobalski?
If I've read this correctly through you, Mayor, are we going to, again, assume the cost for the fit-up for the tenants that are coming into this building, or are we trying to get the tenants to pay the cost for the fit-up?
So the business hub model is a bit of a hot desk model. So the economic development officer will be located in there and will be charging out the desk space to not just these preferred tenants, but to others. So the cost of the furnishings will be our costs, but then we'll be recuperating them through the leases with those 3 preferred partners, but then you'll see in fees and charges. I just noted that we forgot, because they were in planning, we didn't bring them into corporate services, so we'll add them to the PowerPoint going forward. So we'll recuperate those costs through the user fees, just because of the nature of that. Like the Community Futures Development Corp will be in twice a week. They're not going to be like tenants. It's just the nature of that partnership. On the lease side, they'll be responsible for flooring, ceiling, lighting, electrical, that type of stuff, and the washrooms are existing, so it's we're gutting the spaces, but they'll be responsible for the fixtures part of the equation, and we're looking at a 10-year lease, and then those leasehold improvements would be an addition and would be rolled into the lease. So yes, for the preferred government partner, those fit-ups would be part of theirs, but they'll get essentially walls and a concrete floor and the washroom fixtures, and then the rest they'll be paying for. And that'll be brought in the lease that will come back to committee and council.
Thank you, CO.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, council. Business Hub. That Renfrew Town Council directs staff to bring forward lease agreements for the utilization of portions of the vacant space at the Renfrew Town Hall of 1,267 square feet. Mover, please. Councillor Legree, second by Councillor Sobolski. Any questions on this one? Comments? Hearing none. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, council. On to F. That Renfrew Town Council confirmed the minutes of council dated February 14th, 2023, and the closed session minutes of February 14th, 2023, understanding that they remain confidential. Mover, please. Councillor McWhirter, seconder. Councillor Sobolski. Any questions about the minutes? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, council. Communications and petitions, there's none. Motions of which notice has previously been given, none. Motions requiring suspension of the rules of procedures, none. Any notice of motions? Hearing none. On to bylaw. Oh, okay, sorry.
Sorry about that. Through you, Mayor Sidney, I think this is where, yeah, he's telling me this is. Sorry, my voice is kind of going here. I'd like to make a motion that we, I'm not sure how to word it, but in the fire master plan, I want to take a look at the option of the fire department responding to medical calls in a bigger capacity. So I'm not sure how you want that worded, but.
We'll make note of the topic, and then the clerk's department will work with the councillor, and that motion will, as a direction to staff, will come to the next meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
So it's just notice that a motion on that topic will come back at the next meeting, and Victoria and Carolyn can assist with the wording of that motion.
Thank you.
Great. On to bylaws. That the following bylaws listed on the agenda of February 28, 2023 be taken as read and passed. And 12-2023, the Aquatic Services Agreement with the Town of Arnprior. 13-2023, the Fire Service Agreement with Greater Madawaska. And 14-2023, confirming bylaw. Mover, please. Councillor Legree, seconder. Councillor McWhirter. Any questions about these before we make them law? We're good? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, council. Upcoming meetings of council and standing committees. Regular council meeting, March 14th at 6 o'clock. Environment, Infrastructure, and Public Works Committee, March 7th at 10 a.m. Economic Development, Planning, and Tourism Committee, March 7th at 2 p.m. Recreation, Fire, and Protective Services Committee, March 14th at 2. And the Strategic Priorities and Corporate Services Committee is March 21st at 10 o'clock, keeping in mind that they are all live on YouTube and are recorded for our YouTube channel. That being said, it is 8:35 and we are adjourned. Thank you, council.